Ever get that feeling like you're kind of being nudged into saying yes? Like there are these hidden forces at play, making us do things we wouldn't normally do. It's almost like we're all stuck in some psychological thriller, you know? And today, we're going to learn how to spot those traps. Yeah. We're diving deep into this book.
Absolutely.
Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. It's by Robert Cialdini. He's like the authority on this stuff. And in this book, he lays out these 6 principles of persuasion. They're kind of like the secret code to cracking human behavior.
That's exactly what it is. And what I find fascinating is how these principles work.
Right.
They operate under the surface. You think you're in control, right? Making rational decisions.
Totally.
But often it's these like almost invisible psychological levers that are kind of pulling the strings. You know, it's like there's this master puppeteer behind the scenes influencing our thoughts and our actions without us even realizing it.
And that's what's so freaky about it. It's not like some obvious manipulation tactic. It's these subtle, almost invisible forces that shape our everyday lives. Like, take the principle of reciprocity, that whole like age-old instinct to return a favor. How does that even work with persuasion, though?
Well, think about it this way. You're at the supermarket, right?
Yeah.
And someone offers you a free sample. It's a little thing, right? Like a bite of cheese or a sip of some new drink.
Yeah.
But even that tiny little act of giving creates a sense of obligation, you know?
It does.
You feel compelled to do something in return, and that could be just listening to their sales pitch. But more often than not, it's buying the product. That's reciprocity in action.
It's so true. It's that feeling when someone holds the door open for you.
Exactly.
You feel like you have to say thank you or smile, right? Even if it's a stranger.
Right.
It's like this unspoken social contract we all have.
Yeah, it's like built into us. And that's exactly why Cialdini says reciprocity is one of the most powerful tools for persuasion.
Really?
It is. Because it's rooted in our social DNA, this need to maintain balance and fairness in all our interactions. But here's the thing. Marketers and influencers, they've figured out how to leverage this instinct. They turn a simple act of giving into a powerful persuasion technique.
So it's like weaponized kindness.
In a way, yeah. You could say that.
Okay, so reciprocity is all about obligation. What about commitment and consistency? I've heard that one's a real mind bender.
It is. This principle really taps into our deep desire to appear consistent in our words and actions. We want to be seen as reliable and predictable.
Right.
And that makes us vulnerable to this specific type of influence. So imagine you've just signed a petition for a cause you believe in.
Okay, yeah.
It's a small commitment.
Just a signature?
Exactly. Just your name on a piece of paper.
Right. A small step, but in line with my values.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the twist. A few weeks later, that same organization comes back and asks for a donation. You're much more likely to give because you've already taken a stand, even a small one.
Right.
That initial commitment, as tiny as it seems, creates this psychological pressure to stay consistent.
Wow.
This is what Cialdini calls the foot in the door technique.
Oh, yeah.
It's classic commitment and consistency in action for persuasion.
So signing that petition wasn't just showing my support. It was like setting me up for a bigger ask later on.
You got it. Yeah. That's the subtle power of this principle. It's not about forcing someone. Right. It's about gently nudging them in a specific direction, you know, by tapping into their desire to be consistent.
Wow.
It's like laying down a psychological track that makes it easier for them to follow a particular path.
Man, this is getting really interesting. I'm starting to see these principles everywhere now.
I know, right?
What about social proof? That one seems like it's all over the place, especially with social media these days.
Oh, absolutely. Social proof, it plays on our, like, herd mentality. Right. We're social creatures hardwired to look to others for cues.
Yeah.
Especially when we're unsure. Like, think about it. You're choosing a new restaurant, right? Which one are you more likely to pick? The empty one.
Oh, totally. The one with the line out the door.
Exactly. A crowded restaurant equals good food.
It's like a built-in review system.
That's exactly it. And that's why smart marketers, they use this. They showcase testimonials, highlight user reviews, and boast about how many followers they have. It's all about creating that illusion of popularity, which then makes their product or service seem
like it's better,
way more desirable. Yeah.
It's like that experiment where they ask people to judge the length of a line.
Right.
But everyone else in the group gives the wrong answer on purpose.
On purpose, yeah.
And then the subject they start to doubt themselves and go along with the group.
They conform.
Even though they know it's wrong. It's like we're programmed to follow the crowd.
We're wired that way.
Even when we know better.
It's the power of social proof. It can override our judgment, especially when we're unsure or in those situations where...
It's ambiguous.
Exactly. Ambiguous situations.
Okay, so we've got reciprocity, commitment and consistency, and social proof. What's the next principle lurking in the shadows?
Oh, there are more.
Ready to influence us.
There are, and they get even more interesting.
We've been talking about all these psychological triggers.
Right.
And it's making me realize just how vulnerable we are to influence. You know, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It can be a little unsettling. But knowing about this stuff, it's also empowering, you know? Once we understand these principles, we can start to see them in action in our lives and make more conscious choices.
Okay, so let's keep going down this rabbit hole.
Let's do it.
What's the next principle on Cialdini's list?
This one gets a little more personal. It's the principle of liking.
Liking?
Yeah, we're way more likely to say yes to someone we like.
Okay, that makes sense.
Even if their argument isn't all that great, you know?
Yeah, like who hasn't been talked into something by someone they think is attractive or funny?
It goes even deeper than that, though. Cialdini, he says there are a bunch of factors that make someone likable. Like physical attractiveness, sure. But also similarity, compliments, cooperation.
Really?
Yeah, we tend to gravitate towards people who share our values, who make us feel good, and who we've worked well with in the past.
So it's not just surface level charm.
Yeah.
It's about building like a real connection.
Exactly. It's about trust and rapport. Like think about salespeople.
Cool.
They try to find common ground with you, right? Maybe compliment your taste or share a personal story.
Oh, yeah, they do that.
They're creating a friendly vibe to make you more open to their pitch.
It's like when you meet someone who laughs at your jokes.
Right.
You instantly feel a bond.
Even if you just met.
It's that shared sense of humor.
Exactly. And that connection can be super powerful when it comes to persuasion.
Okay.
When we feel connected to someone, we're more likely to trust their judgment and follow their lead.
That makes sense. Okay, so liking is about connection and trust. What about authority? That one seems a lot more like forceful.
Authority. Oh, yeah. That one taps into our deep-seated respect for hierarchy and expertise. You know, we're basically taught from a young age to obey authority figures. Parents, teachers, doctors, police officers. And that can make us vulnerable to persuasion even when we should be questioning things.
It's like that experiment where people were told to give electric shocks to someone else.
Oh, yeah. I know the one.
Just because a guy in a lab coat told them to.
It's scary, isn't it?
It's terrifying. Like, are we really that easily manipulated?
It shows you how powerful authority can be. We're so easily swayed by symbols of authority, you know?
Like titles and uniforms.
Exactly. Titles, uniforms, even just a confident attitude.
So how do we protect ourselves from, like, being blindly led by authority?
We have to remember that authority doesn't always mean expertise or ethical behavior. We need to question things, think critically, and be willing to challenge those authority figures.
Even if they seem legit.
Especially if they seem legit. Even experts can be wrong.
Right.
And blind obedience, it can lead to some really bad outcomes.
Okay, heavy stuff. So we've got reciprocity, commitment, and consistency. Social proof, liking, and authority. Is there one last principle we need to know about?
There is. The last one is scarcity.
Scarcity?
Yeah, this one plays on our fear of missing out.
FOMO.
Exactly. We tend to want things more when there's less of them, you know, or when they're only available for a short time.
Oh, I know this one all too well. Those limited time offers, they get me every time. Like, gotta buy it now or I'll miss out on a great deal.
That's the idea. It creates this urgency, this pressure to act fast.
Yeah.
And it works like a charm.
But doesn't that lead to impulse purchases and bad decisions?
It can, definitely. Scarcity tactics, they prey on our emotions. They bypass our rational thinking.
Wow.
That's why we got to recognize when it's happening and not let that fear of missing out control our decisions.
So take a step back. Assess the situation logically.
Right.
Don't let that fake urgency cloud your judgment.
Exactly. You got to figure out the real value of something. Is it something you truly want, or are you just being manipulated?
Okay, so we've uncovered all 6 of Cialdini's principles of persuasion.
We have.
These are the psychological levers that are constantly at play, shaping our thoughts and actions. It's pretty wild to think about how susceptible we are to these forces.
It is. But the cool thing is, now that we know about them, we can do something about it.
Okay, so what do we do with this knowledge?
That's the power of Cialdini's book, right? It's not just about recognizing these principles. It's about understanding how to use them ethically.
Okay.
And how to protect ourselves from people who might misuse them.
That sounds like a conversation for our next deep dive.
For sure.
We need to talk about the ethics of all this.
Absolutely.
And how we can navigate this world of influence without getting played.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about these techniques and how they work. But now it feels like we're facing this ethical dilemma.
Right.
Because these principles, they can be used for good or bad.
Exactly. It's a slippery slope.
So how do we make sure we're using them ethically?
Well, I think it starts with our intentions, you know?
Okay.
Are we trying to genuinely help people? Or are we just out for ourselves?
Right.
Ethical persuasion, it's about being transparent and honest, respecting people's choices.
So it's not about tricking them.
No, it's about empowering them to make informed decisions, not manipulating them.
So more like building relationships than closing deals.
Exactly. And even when we're using these principles for good, we have to be careful not to cross the line.
How so?
Like, take reciprocity. A genuine act of kindness is great.
Yeah.
But a gift with strings attached, that feels icky.
Like, what's the catch?
Exactly. It's like, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Right?
Good one.
Sometimes a gift is just a way to manipulate you.
Wow, okay. And what about commitment and consistency?
That one can be tricky too. It's great for building good habits, but it can also be used to lock people into commitments they regret.
Oh, like those free trial offers.
Exactly. They turn into paid subscriptions if you forget to cancel.
Ugh. That's happened to me before.
You get tricked by that initial commitment.
Yeah, like, oh, it's just a free trial. No big deal.
Right. But then you're stuck paying for something you don't want.
And what about social proof? We talked about how powerful that is.
We did.
But it can be faked, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like those influencers who promote products they've never even used.
All about appearances.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're creating an illusion to exploit our trust in social proof.
Wow. So we got to be careful about who we trust.
Definitely. And with liking, remember, charm can be deceptive.
Okay.
Someone might seem nice and friendly.
Yeah.
But they might have ulterior motives.
So never let your guard down completely.
Exactly. Even with people you like.
And what about authority? Blind obedience can be dangerous.
Absolutely. Just because someone has a title or a uniform doesn't mean they're always right.
We need to think for ourselves.
Exactly. Critical thinking is key.
And scarcity. Those limited time offers can be tempting.
They can. But ask yourself, do I really need this?
Right. Or am I just afraid of missing out?
Exactly. Separate your emotions from the facts.
So big takeaway here is awareness is key.
It is. When you understand these principles, you can make smarter decisions.
We're like decoding the matrix now.
That's a great way to put it. But with this knowledge comes responsibility.
Oh, that's deep.
We have to choose to use these principles ethically.
To do good in the world.
Exactly. And to protect ourselves from those who would misuse them.
So it's a call to action for all of us.
It is. Be mindful, be discerning, and don't be afraid to question things.
Awesome. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
My pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there,
keep
exploring, keep learning, and stay vigilant.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time.